Hi, my name is Sherry Patterson, and this is my transplant story. 2019, I was running a pretty big fundraiser event, and I was feeling pretty sick. It was very stressful, and there was a lot of work involved, and I put off the feeling sick until I could get through this event. And there were some pretty heavy symptoms. And I did get through the event, and I couldn't figure out why I was feeling so bad. I was so sick. And I ended up going to the hospital, where I stayed for 3 days. And on the third day, the doctor came in and sat down, which is never good. But he said to me, "You have cirrhosis of the liver, and you're stage 4. And I was like, okay, cool. How many stages are there? And he said 4. And at that point in time, I was very confused, because my father had died of cirrhosis of the liver at 48 years old. I was real close to that age, and it hit me really hard. So at that point in time, I still felt like there was some hope, and we're going to fix this. And through the winter, I was getting sicker. 2020 comes along, the pandemic hits, and I'm deteriorating. I was referred to a center about an hour and a half north of where we live. And we get up there, we're doing a lot of testing, I'm meeting a lot of people. They're telling me that I'm eligible for a living liver donation, which was pretty cool. And we had many people step up to try to donate half of their liver to me or a quarter of their liver to me. And they either were denied for some reason or another. And then my stepson stepped up, and he was approved and got all of his testing. And then it was determined that I needed an entire liver, that I couldn't have a partial liver donation, that my liver was deteriorating pretty quickly. I ended up in palliative care, and most of my health care was happening at home because we were in the pandemic. Ended up in palliative care, and my situation was getting worse. I ended up in the hospital 3 or 4 times, and I went to a festival that I wasn't able to even attend. I ended up in the hotel room with my IV fluids, and my husband brought me all the way home, and we ended up in the hospital, and I had an infection in my blood, and I was really sick. At that point in time, this was 2021, and we needed to be closer to the hospital. I was at the hospital a lot. So we were looking to relocate. In the meantime, I was put on a news segment here in our local town in Cincinnati. And after that news segment, the surgeon that was on part of that news segment from our hometown, the University of Cincinnati, called me on the phone. And he said to me, "So you live close, why aren't you registered at our center?" I explained to him that my insurance wouldn't let me be dual listed, and that they were putting me in hospice care at this point. And he said to me, "If you can get to the University of Cincinnati, I can get you a liver." And that statement shocked me, and I was like, okay. And he told me that I would have to come off the list, but it wouldn't be for long, and that they could probably use all my testing from the other hospital. At this point in time, I was called from the other hospital for a liver. So I went up there, and I was denied over a test result not being back. So we drove all the way home. It was very silent, very quiet. The surgeon had said to me, will you do that? Will you move to our center? And why not? I was going into hospice care, right? So I needed to do something. And this guy was saying that this center could save my life. So I did so. I came off the list. I was in hospice care. I was being cared for at home, and I was barely alert at times. The hospice chaplain kept trying to explain to my husband that I was dying. I felt myself dying. I wore a Foley catheter for 6 months. After that, I had to self-cath every time I had to use the restroom. I self-cathed for 1.5 years. I was just getting sicker. And so I came off the list, and I go down to the University of Cincinnati, and I meet everybody. I get a couple more tests that they needed. They used most of my testing from the other center. I met the doctor who called me, and he came in and he said, good to meet you. And I said, good to meet you. And my first question was, how long do you think it'll be before I can get a liver? I'm going into hospice care. And he said 30 days or less. And I said, okay, but I don't think I have 30 days. And he said to me, just trust me. And I said, all right, right? What other choice did I have at that point? We go home, and on a Tuesday, I was called. That was the next week, by the way, Tuesday. I was called and said, hey, you're back on the list. We got you listed, and it's just waiting again. And I had already waited 2.5 years, so I was used to the waiting. But at this point, it was getting really bad. Hospice chaplain was still trying to talk to my family, and my family was not hearing it. I was getting more and more frustrated every moment that I was awake. The pain was unbearable. My quality of life was gone. I just laid on the couch from morning to night, crying. I would wake up in the morning and be angry because I was waking up. It was the worst thing I've ever been through in my life. And I've been through a lot. But the will to live was gone. There were so many moments. I had a hepatic encephalopathy so bad. The ammonia in my brain was so heavy. And my caregiver, my husband, my brother-in-law, my son, who all witnessed so much. They found me in the middle of the street. They found me standing over the pool. He found me in the closet in fetal position. I didn't know who anybody was at one time. At a lot of times, I didn't know who anybody was. My memory was deteriorating. I was a shell of what I knew to be me. And once that was gone, I just didn't have the desire to be sick anymore. I just wanted to not wake up. My husband was and my brother-in-law were diligent about giving me my medicines, and the lactulose and the Xifaxan, Xifaxan, I believe it's called. It was horrendous. We had to put notes or posters on the doors for the paramedics. So when I called multiple times. I called paramedics, I called the police. I was just out of my mind. During that time, there were family members that couldn't quite understand the disease, and me and my mother had a couple words. And we hadn't talked in a while. I was in hospice care, full-blown hospice care at home, and really was having a hard time functioning. And it had already been 2.5 years, 3 years. It had been close to 3 years at that point of me being sick. And they were telling me that I was dying, and I knew it. I felt it. And the hospice nurse came, and the nurse practitioner, and on a Thursday, and they told me that my vitals were slowing down. I knew that. I could feel it. My body was shutting down, all of it, and I felt that. And I called my mom, and I had my mom over, and she brought my daughter, and we were having a very nice conversation. And it ended up that my husband and my brother-in-law went to the store, and this was on Friday. They called me on Tuesday to tell me that I was back on the list, and I was okay with waiting for a while, whatever came first. My mother and I were laughing with my daughter and talking, and the phone rang. And I answered it. I looked at it, and I recognized the number. It was the hospital number. It was a hospital number. And it was the doctor who had told me that he could get me a liver. And he said, "Hey, I have a liver offer for you." And I was stunned. And he said to me, "Hey, you know, the liver is Hep B positive. At the University of Cincinnati, they transplant Hep B positive, Hep C positive, COVID. Let's get you this liver and save your life. And you'll have to take medicine for the Hep B for the rest of your life. I have to take medicine for the new liver for the rest of my life. So what's the difference?" I needed the liver. I had been on the list for 3 days, so I wasn't completely optimistic at this point because of the false alarm I'd had before. My husband came home. We told him we got the call, and that they had a liver for me in Cincinnati. And he said, "Just hold on and wait for your coordinator to call and give you instructions." So around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the coordinator called me and said, "Look, here's what you got to do," and gave me all my instructions and told me what time to head to the hospital. And at that point in time, I was like, all right, it's going to happen. And we said our goodbyes and did our hugging, and we left. And we get up to the University of Cincinnati, down to the University of Cincinnati. And she says, "Okay, we don't have time for this and we don't have time for that. We got to do this." I was like, okay. She said, "Your surgery is scheduled for around 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning." I was like, okay. People kept coming in the room, and they put my IV in. At this point, I was like, okay, well, it happened. I received my liver on October 30th, 2021. Dr. Cutler Quillen did my transplant, and I got to the hospital. It was a Friday. I woke up on Sunday. There was a little issue with the bile duct, so they had to do my liver transplant, put me in recovery for 24 hours and keep me asleep, and then bring me back to the surgery room and fix my bile duct. I woke up on Sunday. When I woke up, I naturally had to go to the bathroom, and that made me so happy. I felt my body. It was alive. It was running. I could see clearly. I could feel everything. I could think clearly. The clouds were gone. Everything was seemingly back to normal. The second I woke up, it felt like. I looked at the nurse. I said, I'm getting up. I got to go to the bathroom. She said, yeah, you're not going to get up. This was after they took all the life support out of me, all of the tubes and things. That was driving me nuts. But I felt so alive, and I was happy to wake up. I am 3 years post, and I've had very little issues. I had few issues with my bile duct, and after a few procedures and some stents, that very same doctor said, you know what, let's just get this fixed. And he had to open me back up and fix this bile duct permanently, and he did an amazing job. I feel great. I feel amazing. And you know, I have to be on immune suppressant drugs, so I catch anything. But here I am. I'm alive, and I have such an amazing, different outlook on life now. I see things differently, and I feel things differently. And I have this amazing desire to live life to the fullest. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm having a blast. I'm living my life. I had the most amazing caregivers. I'm so grateful. And I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be here. I was on that list for 3 days. 3 days. I'm grateful for the University of Cincinnati. I am grateful for my transplant community. I do a lot of volunteering because it's where my passion is. And thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. And there you have it. I do not know who my donor was. It was an anonymous donor. I have written the family one time when I was 6 months out. I haven't written them again. I didn't get a response. I was going to give them some time. I know my donor was young, and that's all I know. I feel healthy, and I'm just loving life. Thank you for watching.